Game Jams, a contest where participants try to make a video game from scratch, and I recently joined one of them. If you're starting out with Unity like me, chances are that you've heard of a guy called Brackeys. Great guy, great YouTuber, great content. He recently held one of these game jams on the 14th of February. I haven't joined any before and I was bored, so I decided screw it, why not? The theme was announced at 7 PM in my area, and it was Stronger Together. I thought of a kinda decent-ish idea, which, side note, I actually forgot what the idea was. I'll explain why later. So I started making it. Here, you can see the first few platforms I made for the first level of this game. By the way, it was also trying to be a 2.5D game, because why not? 2.5D games are always cool. Around an hour later, we have a moving cube. Day 2, I worked on the jumping and stuff off camera, and now we have this smooth movement. Another side note, it wasn't really that great, but I'll explain later. Now actually, I recorded quite a few videos of me making the game. Apparently, I stopped recording when I was supposed to start recording. Basically, I accidentally recorded a 25-hour-long video. Oops. So here are some videos of the code and gameplay that I recorded while writing the script. In the start method, I set the mass of the ball to 0.05, which doesn't actually affect anything, but oh well. In the fixed update method, float x is equal to the horizontal axis of the A and D keys or the left and right key. Float x2 is nothing because why not? And float y is for the jumping, space or up arrow. Add force makes the player go faster the longer you hold the keys, and then these two lines just basically make the player jump. It's not great, but it does the job. In the on-collision enter method, the collision position variable is equal to the transformed position of the collider, and same for the particle effect. So every time it hits something, it will play that effect. If it hits anything with the rock tag, it basically finds a bunch of other scripts which I will explain later, and it also increases the jump force. If it hits a platform tag, it finds the audio manager script and plays the grass noise, which will be changed soon. And if it hits water, then it finds the game manager for the lose game method. Does exactly what you think it does. Here in the start method, I set the text of the pillar counter variable to the value of the timer. And then in every update, if the timer is larger than 0, it will subtract time and change the text accordingly. So it becomes a countdown like you see in the game here. Else, if the time is smaller than 0, the game loses. Down below, we have another method called pillar add point, which increases the score by the value every time it's called. If the score is larger than the win count, which is around 200, the game wins. Finally, in the rock score method, the timer increases by the add count value every time it's called, and then the sound plays, just like this. Over in the rock power-up script, we can see all those vector, freeze and variables, and below that, we have a method called rock collision. When the rock collides with the player, this method will be called and the mass and scale of the player will increase. You can't really see it very well in game, but it does work and the player does get larger gradually. Also, starting from now I'm going to start to explain these scripts via text because I'm lazy. should now explain a few things that I mentioned at the beginning. First, I said, I actually forgot what the idea was, I'll explain why later. If you notice, the original player was supposed to be a square, but then my dad and I had another slightly better idea, which was ball rolls downhill, crashes into tower or building, sticks to some rocks, and stronger together. Again, as you can probably see, that didn't go so well either. Apart from that, I also said this. Another side note, it wasn't really that great, but I'll explain later. If you notice the script, I used move position for the player jumping, which generally isn't a great idea. If you tap the space key, it barely jumps, and if you hold this key and let go in mid-air, it acts as an invisible barrier. So I totally know what I'm doing. Ignoring the missing narration and the missing footage, it should be time for day 7, the final day. Now, something else did happen behind the scenes, which is that I only had 2 levels done, and while designing 3rd level, it had accidentally deleted the terrain for the first 2, so that's why the first 2 levels look rather similar. Anyways, after fixing that error, I quickly made a 3rd level for the game, which you can see right now in the background. I originally wanted to do more, but time constraints, so 3 levels are all we have. Then I hastily made some menus for the game, and yes, the main menu was made around 1 to 2 hours before the deadline. I tried to put in as much as possible, and boom, just like that, my first game jam submission.